What is up guys, Mrwhosetheboss here, and this is my full review of the UMI Hammer. So I was really excited to review this device after it being apparently one of the strongest phones you can buy and coming in at a budget price of just $139.99. So let's talk about build. The UMI Hammer is a seriously tough phone. It is rough, tough, and can take literally anything you throw at it. In their promotional video, the company demonstrated running it under tap water, running it over with a car, and smashing walnuts with it. And either way, it was totally unscathed. This thing is seriously strong. It has a metal trim running around the edges, which is really nice and has that beautiful cold touch. It has a dual layer glass, which is scratch resistant as well as almost shatter resistant. On the top we have a micro USB for charging and a headphone jack to plug in your music, and I think those positions are actually quite nice. I think they work pretty well. And on the bottom you can see we have a noise cancelling microphone. The call quality on this is actually very good, and I think that placement helps towards that. One thing which is a little bit annoying is how the device actually sticks up from the ground due to the elevated camera. It makes it sort of wobble around a little bit when it's on a flat surface. Even better than this, the back is actually removable, so as well as having all the awesome benefits of a unibody and feeling like a unibody device, you can actually remove the back, meaning it's got a dual SIM card slot, replaceable 2250 mAh battery, and a SD card slot. Really awesome here. In terms of build, I have to say there's just nowhere to fault it. This thing is practically indestructible. So now let's talk a little bit about the features on offer. So aside from actually being an extremely cheap device, the UMI Hammer actually has a couple of other interesting selling points. So the display is a pretty standard 720p IPS affair, but it does actually boast a supposed 178-degree viewing angle, which is absolutely insane. Having said that, in actual use, I kind of do notice a little bit of discoloration as we move away from the optimal viewing angle, but in most normal usage scenarios, it's bright, colourful, crisp, and vibrant. Not quite Super AMOLED, but hey ho. Now I know these guys bang on and on about the camera on this device. I have to say I wasn't blown away. Having said that though, it's pretty impressive. So here we have a 13 megapixel CMOS sensor, which is good. We have a f2.2 aperture, which is kind of on the lower end of the market and means you don't get too much depth of field, but nonetheless you capture pretty nice colours, even if they are a little bit overexposed, as you can see here, and just generally quite a nice bit of detail. Now this camera really does come into its own in dark situations, so although it has a dual tone flash, in a situation where you're not using it, the camera still captures pretty good amount of detail, which is nice to see. So overall, it's okay. Now let's take a little listen to the speaker. It's not bad, but it's not great. The volume is about 80% as loud as my current Vivo X shot, so I'd have to say it's probably about what you'd expect. So in terms of battery, we have a 2250 mAh battery, which may not sound like much, and to be honest it isn't really much. The end battery life is about a day, so it's not exactly outstanding, but it's not too shabby either. So the Hammer is running Android 4.4.4 KitKat, which is good, but not really great. I mean, I really do wish they'd update to Lollipop. It adds a real nice new flair to the whole experience. It may get an update, it may not, I'm not sure. But baked into the Android experience, you get a couple of nice features. Things like Smart Wake, gesture support, and various other bits and pieces which are just sort of an additional flavour to what you'd get on a stock Android device. In this case, I have to say they actually add stuff rather than taking it away. It doesn't exactly make the experience cluttered, but it just gives you more stuff to play around with. It's nice, and it all works surprisingly well. So for example, you can enable a double tap to unlock the display, which is really nice, so you don't have to sort of fiddle around with the buttons, and then you can actually draw various things to trigger certain actions, but this works a little bit less well due to how the phone kind of rocks when it's on a flat surface. Now also built in is super user support, which means this device comes pre-rooted. This gives you access to a huge amount of super cool stuff. It means you can regulate every single app, even built-in ones, you can uninstall them, you can decide which ones boot on startup, and you get so much control over your device, you can really make this your own experience. This is a really good feature. So in terms of features, the Hammer basically provides exactly what you'd expect it to, with just a little bit more. When it comes to performance, the device is actually surprisingly well spec'd out. Again, for this price, you're getting really good components. 2GB of RAM, a 64-bit next-gen MTK6732 processor. Now this is a quad-core chip at 1.5 GHz and 16GB of internal memory. So, I mean, to be honest, is it a good gaming experience? Yes. I mean, 2D games, 3D games, 2.5D games, they all run surprisingly well. I was really quite impressed. These new generation of MTK chips really are changing the market. So the screen on offer here is a 720p panel, which means that games do generally just run smoother. Having said that, I do still think it's fairly sharp and it's a great gaming experience. Now on Antutu, this thing scores about 23,000, which is hardly top of the line, but you know, in terms of day-to-day performance, flicking through things, multitasking, gaming performance, I have to say it feels like it's more than that. It feels every bit as responsive as most devices costing twice as much. I can barely tell the difference between this and my $600 Vivo X Shot. And so, to be honest, I'm kind of skeptical about this whole benchmarking thing. I mean, it's becoming more and more of an issue with various manufacturers sort of fixing it to make their devices run better. This one is not exactly scoring spectacularly on the benchmark, but in terms of day-to-day performance, it really is punching above its weight. So as a summary, performance is really quite good. So is this device worth your money? Well, yeah. I mean, while you pay $139.99 US, which is pretty much an entry-level price tag, and to be honest, you're not exactly getting a top-of-the-line camera, you're not getting a top-of-the-line battery life or top-of-the-line speakers, you're getting a device that's practically indestructible. You're getting something which has a almost next-gen chip, something which performs so smoothly and fluidly that you basically notice no lags at all, something which has 4G LTE connectivity and signal almost everywhere. 90% of the time, the Hammer looks and feels like a flagship. The back is described by the website as smooth as a baby's bottom. They're not wrong. Furthermore, the metal trim even puts some much larger companies to shame. It makes the OnePlus One feel cheap, and even maybe the likes of the LG G4. It really is top quality in terms of build. There's no denying that the UMI Hammer is an impressive device that will turn heads. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you liked this video. If you did, don't forget to subscribe for more.